Hey, this is Spainer from the Spainer and Rig Show, and we are here with Mark Haugen, the Democratic nominee for Congress for the state of North Dakota, and we're going to talk little sports, talk a little baseball, maybe. Mark, how you doing?
Doing well. It's Tuesday morning. North Dakota, a little overcast, but heck, it's spring in North Dakota.
So you're a big baseball guy. You played Little League. You said Rose Glen, North Dakota, some Legion and Garrison, and then some baseball and football. Is that right for Bismarck Junior College, not State College back in the day, right?
That's correct, Jason. Yes, thank you. Yes, I grew up in western McLean County, western North Dakota, a little town called Rose Glen, just off the Fort Berthold Indian Reservation. And I attended school at White Shield and played basketball and football through my formative earlier years and started Little League in the adjacent town of Rose Glen. We had a very, we played communities like Newtown and Parshall and Ryder, Makoti Plaza. We had to have we called kind of a lake conference there. So very a lot of fun. We were all farm kids. I think the only we had a grocery store in Rose Glen, so the family that run the grocery store, their kids played baseball. Otherwise, we're all farm kids in that part of the country. Um, Garrison, I graduated from Garrison High School, played football and Legion baseball, of course, and basketball, and I started thinking about college. I played for 1 year at Bismarck Junior College. Played football for an old NDS. Well, actually, he went on to NDSU to be the offensive or defensive coordinator. Leo Ringy. He was my head coach at Bismarck Junior College, and they had a football program for about 10 years before they decided to drop football. But it was a lot of fun for young men to play football in a 4-year conference. Back in those days, North Dakota State College of Science and Bismarck Junior College were part of the NDCAC, the North Dakota College Athletic Association, with Minot State, Dickinson State, Mayville, Jamestown, Valley City. And so we played against the 4-year boys. We had fun doing it. We hit just as hard as the bigger boys, and although we didn't win many games, we really enjoyed it. And I also played college baseball for Leo Riggy at Bismarck Junior College in the same teams, 4-year schools, 2-year schools. The I coached Legion baseball for Garrison for a number of years. I coached Legion baseball and Little League baseball in Underwood as well, which is a little community to the south of Garrison. And I also coached high school baseball. These are in my early 20s when I was I had the energy.
Did you coach at Garrison High School, or what school did you coach?
Yeah, Garrison. I coached baseball at Garrison High
So
School
you're a
and then
trooper.
Legion in the summer.
I like that.
I'm a trooper.
I like that. I
Exactly.
like
Yeah.
that.
I was a White Shield warrior from 66 to 75, and then a trooper from 75 to 79. So that's my formative and high school years in there.
I like that. So what position in baseball did you play?
A lot of outfield. I actually started playing Legion when I think I was 13. In small towns, you kind of have to dig down deep into the roster a little bit, or the younger people. So I started playing Legion baseball at a pretty young age. So they kind of stick in the outfield, and I love playing the outfield. Actually, just stuck with that position for most of the time. And then as my later years, I did some pitching as well,
So I was
and
always
that's
a
what I
second
played.
baseman. I wanted to play center field. Center field gets to move around all the time. You're always backing things up and whatnot. And but I had kind of a spaghetti arm. But so I was always at second base. But that is what it is. It was
Yeah,
fun though. Baseball, most people don't know. It's like it's kind of my true love. I'm a Dodger fan. Um, you're a Twins fan. That's a minor league team. I get it. But no, I'll tell you this though. Speaking of the Twins, you guys got Korea. You know, I thought that was really good for baseball in general. I thought that was really good. I mean, whether it would be the Twins or the Pirates or the Orioles, but for them to go out and get Korea and you guys got Sanchez, which I think he's going to frustrate you with strikeouts, but he'll be those big moments with guys on base and he'll whiff away, but and he'll come up with big hits every now and then. But I thought getting Correa was it was just good for baseball to get more teams to try to compete. Because
absolutely.
you and me are dying breed right now on baseball fan, and the lockout. I'm glad that's ended. tell me, what do you think here is going to happen in baseball this fall, this spring, summer, fall?
Well, obviously, for those true baseball fans, spring gives us eternal hope for your team that you root for, and so we're hoping that obviously my Twins can perform much better they did than their stellar basement performance last year. But obviously, yes, the Dodgers are going to be tough. There's no doubt about that in the NL. Atlanta's going to be tough. Obviously, there's 3 or 4 teams right now that have that come to the top. I think the Yankees again are going to be a hard. Toronto, I think Toronto's improved greatly with bringing on
Oh,
Jose
Toronto's
Barrios.
really good right now. They got murderers row. They got a rotation, a bullpen. They're kind of scary.
Yes, so it should be interesting. Like, a lot of it has to do with, of course, injuries. Some teams just go through just a rash of injuries at certain points in the season, and so hopefully, like, for example, the team that you root for, can be fairly injury free, and then just hang in there. Don't have the long droughts that, the 10-game losing streaks and that type of thing. That'll keep you in the race for a long period of time. The new playoff system is going to obviously keep a number of teams in that fight for a longer period of time, which I think is good for baseball. The problem is in the upper Midwest, we have an open air stadium. This ought to be interesting if we make it that far, play baseball in late October
Yeah.
and early November. But the Twins, I grew up with Metropolitan Stadium. My parents took me there starting in the 60s. And, that's all that Calvin Griffith. He was tight in the pocketbook. It eventually caught up to him into the late 70s, early 80s. And the Pohlad family came along and bought the team. And you got to give it to the Pohlads. Even though Minneapolis, is still a small market, they seem to have really put the money into the team. They're not spending big bucks. I think they're being smart about it. So I think that keeps the fan interest, keeps them engaged. And so, yeah, Carrera was a great sign for us.
Yeah, no, I mean, and he's got winning pedigree. I think that'll help out the team. It's always nice to bring a guy in that's still young enough to do stuff, not old, but he's got ring. You know what I mean? He's been to the World Series a couple times. I like that. So Vikings and Bengals. So tell me about Vikings and Bengals. And most people don't get it. I get it. I had an older brother, and he always told me when I was a little kid, you have to have a team in the AL, and you have to have a team in the NL. You got to have a team in the AFC. You got to have a team in the NFC, a team in the Eastern Conference, and the Western Conference. So I was a Jazz and Sixers fan, and I was a Cowboys and Oilers fan, and I was a Dodgers and Yankees fan, and they were all good. Like when I was like 6, 7, 8 years old or whatever when I picked those teams. And then I realized as I get older, okay, there's fanhood. You're gonna have to, gotta have a team. Dodgers are my team. Oilers moved. It was easy. I'm the Cowboys fan. Whatnot. And then I went to work for the Jazz. So when I was in college, so that was an easy deal there. But
Sure.
Vikings and Bengals. So explain that one to me.
Well, the Vikings, very obvious. I grew up in the 60s. My first recollection of a football game actually was that 69 season in the 1970 Super Bowl. I can't remember what it was, a 3 or 4-4. The Vikings and the Chiefs.
Super Bowl
and then the game
right?
prior
Super Bowl
to that,
Chiefs, Len Dawson.
yeah, and before that, the loss. Actually, the first game I remember watching with my dad was the Vikings and Rams, that cold day in Metropolitan Stadium. We beat Roman Gabriel, Joe Cap, Dave Osborne. That I kind of, as a young boy, those become your idols, and so then that was easy to root for the Vikings. I keep thinking, am I going to be able to live long enough to see a Super Bowl victory? So I watched those 4 Super Bowls, and we lost every one of them, and now we haven't been back since the mid 70s when we lost to the Oakland Raiders, and so that's tough. But you just got to keep believing that the front office can pull this through. Of course, we had this big contract with Kirk Cousins that we have to kind of work through. So we're hoping that hopefully he can shine this next year and really live up to his contract. That's what I'm hoping as a diehard fan of the Minnesota Vikings that I've been my whole life. The Cincinnati Bengals fan is more recent. My wife's cousin is Logan Wilson. He's the middle linebacker for the Cincinnati Bengals. He played in the in the Super Bowl this year, and we watched almost every game of the season this past year. His Logan's mother and my wife were like sisters growing up in Dickinson, North Dakota. My wife grew up on a farm just north of Dickinson. Logan Wilson's mother grew up in Dickinson. Grandma still lives in Dickinson, which would be my wife's aunt. That's her godmother. So they were very close to the family. And he was one of these, 6'2", 170-pound with pads on and wet out of from Casper, Wyoming, looking for someone to pay attention to him for a football scholarship. Coming out of Nechona County High School in Casper, Wyoming, Logan Wilson, and Craig Bull caught his eye, Craig Bull noticed him. Craig Bull started to watch him in some of the football games, and eventually that senior year, the former NDSU coach Craig Bull offered him a scholarship. Now he's a tall, lanky kid. And what Craig Bull saw was the potential to get him stronger, get him faster, get him bigger. And so he had no idea he was going to be a linebacker. He thought he was going as a cornerback, but they shifted him to linebacker right away in his redshirt season. And then in his freshman season, in his redshirt season, he started right away. He was barely 200 pounds. And we went down for one game per year in Wyoming, in Laramie. We took a family. We would just take a caravan of family members from Bismarck and Dickinson down to Laramie, Wyoming, and watch a game a year. It was great to watch Division I FBS football. I hope someday NDSU takes that route. I guess that's my bias, being part of FBS football down there.
Well, we're going to bring that question up for sure. So, it's interesting. So when I coached, I don't like losing. Didn't like losing ever, whatnot. And, but when I'd get into the NCAA tournament or, the national tournament or whatnot, the top 5 teams, 8 teams in the country would have the same players I would have, but they were taller. And I was like, I'm trying to figure out, how do they get these kids? So I go out to the recruiting showcases, and there's a big girl and another girl, but I always wanted super fundamentally sound, crafty kids that could dribble, the soccer ball, and the big kids, I'm looking at them, they're committed to Notre Dame, North Carolina, Stanford. I'm like, where do they get? And it hit me, and we had this girl named Kelly Creason. She's the all-time minutes leader at Minot State. She was real tall but super skinny. And, we redshirted her one year, and then she was 4-time All-Region for Minot State. And it hit me to, you just got to put time into, and, put some meat on them and build their frame up and whatnot. And then so she kind of, she changed my whole view on how to coach and develop long-term thinking, I don't know. So it's interesting you bring that up because it's kind of it's similar, obviously different sports, but similar. NDSU. So, I'm not going to paint you in a corner with the question that we ask all the kids. What's North Dakota's team, Sioux hockey or Bison football? But you did bring up Bison football, and so tell me, you think they should go FBS and? And what route would they go? I mean, would they try to save the Big 12? Would they try to get into the Big 10, or would they be just another also ran mid-major? I mean, I think they've got enough backing, and they win enough that they might be able to draw a lot of funding from big sources. What do you think?
Yeah, great question. And I look at it from afar. I'm not an NDSU alum, but I just look at it from afar. And being part of the Mountain West Conference and enjoying the games, whether it's Utah State or any one of the other, I'm thinking some of the other UNLV and some of the other programs that are out there in the Mountain West. I think that's the direction probably NDSU should go. When you read some of the other information that's out there, I think NDSU should be picky about it. Hone in on what's best fits them. Obviously, the other sports are an issue as well. The Summit League is a great spot for all the other sports. The NDS is very competitive. They have the rivalries with South Dakota State, even still UND, and others. and so, I'm kind of conflicted on that too. And I read some of the other blogs and information that are out there from the fans, but maybe we can get into as a football only. But I think we've proven our point in FBS that we're the top dogs. We won time and time again, within maybe just an exception or two. We're winning the national championship every year, and some of our major rivalries at that level
have left,
whether it be the old Georgia Southern, Appalachian State, James Madison. They're just taking. Yeah, so I think it's worth looking west. Don't be picky. I mean, we need to be picky about it, but look west.
It's interesting. We talked on the show a while back, but and I was talking about Paul Christ at Wisconsin. Is he worth $5 million a year or whatnot? I don't know what his salary is, but it's in the millions. When you go back to Miami when they were winning national championships, their quarterbacks were being drafted every year, but they were being drafted like in the 6th or 7th round. But they were dominating college football. If you get a quarterback drafted, you're going to dominate. I mean, that quarterback's significantly better than the rest of the FBS for the most part. NDSU over the past X amount of years, 6, 7, 8 years, only one university in all of college football has higher draft pedigree at the quarterback position than NDSU, and that's Alabama. So if you look at Wentz and Stick and Lance, Alabama's the only one ahead of them with their 2 first-round picks and then Jalen Hurts. So I really I love Bison football, and I think that they've just done an amazing job of building up and they've had coaching changes, and they've just maintained the juggernaut. It just keeps rolling on. The show goes on, as they say. I love North Dakota, and I went on and coached Division I. And we finally had I had a bad team. We turned it around, and I jumped back. I couldn't get back to North Dakota quick enough. So you'd be representing North Dakota, but you'd have to live in like Washington, D.C., which, to me, I don't know that I could make that sacrifice. So, tell me, just, you don't have to get into the politics or whatnot. Just, tell me your love for North Dakota and kind of why you'd go to Washington for that.
Thank you, Jason. That's a great question. I've been a Western North Dakota boy my whole life. I lived in Fargo for 1 year, and then I've basically lived in Western North Dakota, and I love this state. It's the beauty, the people. I think that's what makes a great place to live, is the people that you associate yourself with, and I'm always been a person of service. I'm a paramedic. I'm still maintain a paramedic certification, so I've worked on a small ambulance service, and I've also been an educator here in Bismarck for EMTs and paramedics, and I've traveled the whole state with leadership organizations and leadership duties. So I've been to Walhalla, I've been to Crosby, I've been to Bowman, I've been to Wahpeton. I've been in every places in between, serving the state primarily with emergency medical services, and I want to take that next step in Congress. It was a very quick decision that my wife and I had to make running for Congress. Of course, it was a week and a half ago at our convention in Minot, and but I feel good about it. We have a lot of we're up and running with what we need to do to take off with this campaign, and I love campaigning. I ran for state treasurer in 2020, loved every minute of it. And although I did not win, I was the leading vote getter among the Democratic candidates. I think it's because I do have some name recognition out there for the service and the work I've done for 30 years, or even longer with my professional career. So we're looking forward to the campaign. We're in it to win, and we're off and running.
So this is a sports show, and this isn't about Biden, Trump, and party lines and all that stuff, but it is about North Dakota. I'm going to ask you one question, and I asked your opponent the same question, so I want to be fair. And I come to this show with the North Dakota perspective. So I don't care what happens in Washington, D.C. or Seattle or Denver or whatever, but we have the issue with the transgendered sports. And I've got a daughter that's, she's coming up, very good soccer player, what's your stance, in representing North Dakota, on that issue. And look, I understand, and I'm 100% with someone who feels trapped and, maybe wants to make a change. But what's your feeling on that person making a change and then competing maybe in an unfair division, or, what are your thoughts?
Great question, Jason. And I may not give you I'm still trying to formulate my mind on this a little bit, so I'll try to work through this. I am a Catholic. I do believe that our bodies are temples. We need to cherish our body. But again, those people that are struggling with their identity, whether it's transgender, and people that are, what I'm against is when people of the LGBTQ community are ridiculed and, looked down on in some way. That's not my beliefs. We need to embrace them with love and respect and honor. And but I do believe that my body's a temple, and my God made me in my image, and I that's my duty to my Lord. So I struggle. I really struggle with this issue. My sense is that in some situations, it may create an unfair competitive issue. I think that's probably yet to be seen. But those are my thoughts, Jason.
Well, I mean, Leah Thomas wins the NCAA championship by 5 seconds. I mean, it's not like it's a close race, I mean, that's fairly unfair. I do like, there is a new proposal, and I wanted to throw this out to you, and it's I feel bad because it wasn't out there when your opponent was on here, but it is a new proposal, and I'm going to bring it up because this is a station here. So they're thinking about going to open and women's, so that and this is high school, Olympics, and I don't know how far the proposal is going to get or whatnot, but open and women's, so that so if you're dominating the women's division and you're a woman, you could decide to go and compete in the open. You don't have to compete in the women's. It's open and women's. What are your thoughts on that? I mean, is that a solution?
I don't even know how to even answer that. I guess I'm more of a traditionalist, and I'd have to put some more thought in it. I just like the fact that we have just the two divisions. I think this is something that just has to be further evaluated and debated. I realize the NCAA is its own organization. It's a powerful organization. It's kind of a monopoly. I think that's well said and well known. And they can pretty much do what they want to do. I just feel I'm more of a traditionalist. So that's my answer, Jason.
No, that's good. So I'm going to leave you with just a fun thing here. You said Bengals. I can do Vikings too, whichever one you want. But Ken Anderson, Boomer Esiason, Joe Burrow. They're all 0-1 in the Super Bowl. Who's the best quarterback in Bengals history?
I would say Boomer because of his longer career. Although there's some, Joe Burrow's still too young. I mean, the jury's still out, but probably I would go with Boomer. Boomer fits more when I was paying attention to football. Kenny Anderson was a little bit, when I was in that younger age group, I wasn't watching much AFC football back then. Kenny was a good quarterback. He was a good short range quarterback. Boomer,
he had that 23 passes in a row or something, right? And then they beat the Chargers in that frozen game, and was that 1981 when they lost on that goal line stand, the Niners' famous goal line stand. But yeah. So well, that's good. I really appreciate you coming on. I think sports is a real connective topic. I think that it doesn't get asked enough, of people, or it doesn't have to even be sports. Honestly, it could be religion and arts and stuff, but. I like to get to know people a little bit, and you know, just and let the people of North Dakota know you. So, but I really appreciate you coming on, and I think it's cool that you've given up your time as a youth coach. So, thanks a lot.
Thank you, Jason. It was a pleasure to get to know you as well, and your love for sports and the teams that you root for. And good luck to the Dodgers.
I hope it. I can't stand the Giants. I hate the Giants. I hate the Giants. And you know, for you, I hope. Brock Wepler is one of my best friends. I hope your Twins have that Giants season like they did last year. Maybe not losing that first round, but you know, so maybe Dodgers Twins World Series would be kind of fun.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot.